And when they did, the Hecate would return, not as a ship, but as the shape memory takes when it refuses to fade. The Vorthari Imperium had mapped every star in Quadrant 7. Their sensor nets extended light years in all directions, cradling the border in a web of certainty. Nothing entered without notice, nothing left without cause, which is why the signal made no sense. It arrived in a narrowband pulse, faint, corroded by time, but unmistakable, old Terran code. Human military protocol, extinct for over a century. The kind of encryption used before Earth fell silent, before the Omega Rift burned through its last breath. The message played once, distorted by time and distance. USV Hecate, requesting docking clearance. One human aboard, standing by. At first, Vorthari analysts assumed it was a ghost signal, a fragment bouncing through decayed relays. But then it repeated, stronger, sharper. The source was traced to a dreadnought, Terran design, Class Theta. Its hull registered as the USV Hecate, long since presumed lost. Official Dominion records listed it as vaporized during the Omega Rift collapse, 173 years ago. And yet here it was, whole, drifting, approaching the border of Vorthari space at a slow, deliberate crawl. Recon platforms scanned it in layers, visual, subspace, thermal, gravitic. There were no active systems, no power readings, no propulsion. The ship moved without fuel, without thrust, without purpose, except forward. No life signs, nothing alive. Yet the signal persisted. USV Hecate, requesting docking clearance. One human aboard, standing by. Over and over. Then without warning, the entire sensor grid monitoring the border collapsed. Systems blinked out in sequence. One heartbeat, then none. No explosions, no hacking, just absence. The network, a lattice of certainty, went dark. Emergency protocols triggered across the outer Vorthari rim. Fleets mobilized. Orders screamed through command nodes. Probes were launched, but none returned. Only the signal remained. Requesting docking clearance. One human aboard, standing by. The voice was calm, even, human, not mechanical, but beneath it, barely audible, something else began to bleed through. A sound not in the transmission itself, but in the minds of those who heard it. A pulse, a whisper. Some officers heard weeping. Others heard the echo of their own name. No two experiences were the same, except one. The cold certainty that whatever was on that ship was not waiting. It was coming. Admiral Drexen Vool stood rigid on the observation deck of the Vorthari Lance, his gaze fixed on the impossible. A Terran dreadnought drifting slowly into Vorthari territory, silent and pristine. The USV Hecate. Long thought erased in the Omega Rift collapse, 173 years ago. Every record, every projection had declared the ship utterly lost. Yet now it hovered just beyond the border relay buoys, its hull reflecting starlight like polished obsidian. Its identification markers were active, uncorrupted. Its registry ping matched ancient Terran naval signatures, unchanged since the ship's disappearance. Vool's orders were swift and absolute. Deploy recon teams, no direct contact. I want scans, full hull metrics, and telemetry crossbands. Assume contamination. 5 drones launched from the ship's undercarriage, scattering in formation. Their approach was measured, cautious. Vool watched the feed in silence. Around him, the command crew murmured diagnostics and echoed telemetry. The Hecate remained still. Then came the signal. USV Hecate, requesting docking clearance. One human aboard, standing by. The voice was calm, female, old Terran standard. No modulation artifacts, not synthetic, not a recording. She's talking, said Commander Thyrix, his eyes wide. She's actually talking. Vool didn't answer. He watched the spectral readouts. No life signs, no metabolic heat. The ship was dead by every measure. And yet it spoke. 3 drones conducted full spectrum sweeps. Results showed no propulsion signature, no active drive. Life support was offline. Gravitational balance held perfectly, as if the vessel simply chose not to drift. Internal scans reflected only void. No crew, No AI activity, no movement. Then one drone, Unit 3, approached the outer hull and deployed a contact probe. Its feed vanished instantly. The signal returned 6 minutes later, intact, but changed. The drone's core memory had been overwritten, not wiped, rewritten. Thousands of lines of Terran poetic text filled its logs, not command strings or corrupted gibberish, but structured, rhythm-based prose, old Earth literature, fragments of unknown origin, each line written in a different tone: sad, beautiful, angry, hopeful. I dreamed of silence and found a song. The stars forgot us, but we remembered them. Text ran language matrices, translation algorithms. The code adapted, evaded, responded. One line restructured itself mid-analysis, shifting to match the observer's native syntax. Commander Thyrix turned away. "Sir, this isn't a response. It's a reflection." Voul's voice was flat. "It's bait." Then the ship moved. No engines, no thrusters. The main airlock opened. A soft hiss of decompression escaped into the void, though no gas was released. Lights along the hatch glowed amber. The corridor beyond flickered into view, immaculate, warm, like someone had cleaned it for guests. No weapons deployed, no defense grid flared. The ship did not resist inspection. She invited it. "That's not protocol," muttered Thyrix. "No ship from that era would do this." Voul remained still. Another drone advanced. This time, Unit 1, slow and silent, feeding live visuals back to the bridge. Its camera passed through the airlock threshold. A corridor stretched ahead. Polished walls. Terran in architecture, yes, but wrong somehow. The lighting didn't match any known configuration. It felt like memory rendered physical. One door far ahead stood ajar. The drone advanced, and then static. No explosion, no EM surge. Just the quiet end of a signal, as if the ship had decided the conversation was over. "Send another," Voul ordered. Drone Unit 5 approached. The moment it neared the airlock, its onboard sensors shut down. The drone turned around, returned to the ship unaided. It docked perfectly, despite being under no active control. Its systems came online 5 minutes later. More poetry, no telemetry. The final line read, "The door remains open because we remember how it felt to be locked out." Silence blanketed the command deck. "Weapons?" Voul asked. "None," Thyrix said. "No signs of trap signatures, no radiation bleed, and the ship's hull resists all physical scans. Boarding teams? Refused to go, even our enhanced units." Of course they refused. Something about the Hecate was watching, not malevolent, not hostile, but aware. "It knows we're here," Thyrix whispered. Voul nodded. The voice looped again. "Requesting docking clearance. One human aboard, standing by." The Admiral walked slowly to the viewport. The ship remained still, aglow with invitation. Voul tapped the glass once, then whispered, "What are you?" The door was already open. Drone Unit 7 crossed the threshold with hesitation encoded into its joints. The Hecate's internal atmosphere registered Earth standard. Warm, breathable, still. No movement, no radiation leaks, no audible sound. Just the ambient hum of something not mechanical but aware. The corridor led forward into a dim bridge chamber, illuminated by soft static blue light. Every surface was clean, untouched. No dust, no decay. Consoles flickered with faint readouts, but none responded to pings. They pulsed like memories, not systems. And then it saw her, a human figure seated in the command chair, unmoving, unarmed, waiting. She wore the uniform of a Terran fleet commander, perfectly preserved, high-collared, matte black, with crimson accents at the sleeves. Her skin was pale, almost luminescent. Her hands rested lightly on the armrests, relaxed. Her eyes glowed faint silver in the low light. She didn't speak until the drone stopped 10 meters away. "I never left," she said. The voice matched the transmission, calm, real. The drone sent visuals back to the Vorthari Lance. The bridge crew froze. Biometric comparison was immediate. The match was undeniable. Commander Ellen Rao, pilot of the USV Hecate, Presumed killed during the Omega Rift collapse. Death confirmed by Dominion records. Funeral archived with honors. Her DNA had been mapped, her remains identified, and yet she sat there, blinking slowly, as though only minutes had passed. "Admiral," Therick said softly, "we confirmed her death. The collapse vaporized her entire command staff. That's not her." Vool said nothing. He stepped closer to the main screen, watching her eyes. They weren't hostile. They weren't confused. They were steady. "Can she see us?" someone whispered. She nodded. "I see you." Vool activated the command relay. "Commander Rao, you are presumed deceased. This ship was lost for 172 years. Explain your presence." "I never left," she repeated. "I only waited." She did not blink. Her posture never changed. "Our scans confirm you are organic," Vool continued. "You are human in structure, but the data conflicts. Your vitals show no age decay, no neural entropy. How is this possible?" She tilted her head. "Because someone remembered me." Silence. Therick leaned toward Vool. "That's not an answer. That's mythology." "She's not speaking to us in logic," Vool murmured. "She's speaking in resonance." More drones approached the Hecate. None interfered. No defense systems activated. Rao did not react to their presence. She was still like a monument, still like an idea. Vool tried again. "Who are you now?" "I am Ellen Rao," she said, "and I am the memory of her. Both, neither." Another pause. "I came back because someone remembered me." The lights on the bridge dimmed slightly, in rhythm with her breath. Not power fluctuation, a response. "What happened in the Omega Rift?" She looked past the drone. Her voice softened. "Everything ended." And then something else began. Vool's throat tightened. She stood. There was no tension in the movement. Her steps were slow, measured, like walking through a dream. She approached the drone, then stopped just close enough to be unmistakably alive. "I request diplomatic contact," she said. "Under whose authority?" Vool asked. "Mine." "You have no government. Earth no longer transmits. Terran High Command has not existed in generations." "I remember them," she said, "and they remember me. That's enough." The screen flickered. A single image appeared. A list of names, hundreds of them. Some Vorthari historians recognized. A Terran poet, a fallen engineer, a lost daughter. At the bottom, Ellen Rao. She raised her hand and the screen dimmed. "Memory is a kind of gravity," she said. "You pulled me back." The drone's sensor array trembled. No external force, but its casing registered subtle harmonics. Frequencies just beneath perception, like a motion made audible. "Prepare to receive a vessel," she said. Then she sat down again, waiting. They called it a mind scan, but it was closer to intrusion. The Vorthari had long since evolved past brute interrogation. Their neural analysis team specialized in layered psychic contact, measured empathy interfaces, mimetic cross-mapping, and emotion-anchored retrieval. They had mapped ancient minds, decoded extinct philosophies, even extracted language from the dreams of dying sons. None of it prepared them for Ellen Rao. The first contact was Lieutenant Koresh, a low-tier, empathic analyst. His task was simple: touch the surface of her consciousness. No deep dive, no memory probing, just feel her presence. He lasted 7 seconds. He collapsed into convulsions, eyes wide, mouth trembling. Medics rushed to his side. He gripped one of them with trembling claws and whispered, "She's holding all of us." Then he lost consciousness. A second analyst, more experienced, initiated a buffered probe, one with full cognitive shielding. He maintained contact for just over a minute. He emerged calm, unblinking. Then he sat down and began writing. 100 pages, all in old Terran script. Each line a lullaby. Songs no Vorthari had ever heard. Some matched historical records, songs Earth mothers once sang to children beneath collapsing skies. Others were unknown, yet carried patterns consistent with pre-warp Terran sleep verse. Rhythmic, gentle, heavy with longing. When asked how he knew the songs, the analyst replied, She remembered them for me. From orbit, the Vorthari Lance tightened containment. Additional drones were recalled. The diplomatic channels remained open, but no messages were transmitted. Inside the Hecate, Commander Ellen Rao waited. She did not eat, did not sleep. Sensors confirmed her body functioned like a human's, yet metabolically stable beyond explanation. Her brain activity surpassed known Terran limits. She wasn't dead, but she wasn't entirely alive either. She's not haunted, Vul muttered in a debrief. She is the haunting. High Command issued a directive. Escalate analysis. They brought in deep readers. One by one, they touched her mind, and one by one, they changed. Some cried. Some stared into space for hours, unmoving. One began painting spirals across every surface of his quarters, repeating the phrase, "She dreams in circles because she has no straight lines left." By the fourth contact, the team stopped initiating scans. It wasn't damage they feared. It was revelation. Rao's consciousness was not linear. It did not process input and response. It held. Every question led back to the one answering. Every scan looped inward until the observer confronted themselves, reflected through her. She was not memory. She was resonance. A construct, perhaps. A sentient recording. But if so, she was a recording that recorded you back. Vul sat in silence before her live feed. Rao still sat on the Hecate's bridge, unmoving, eyes soft with knowledge no one wanted to inherit. "She's not just what came back," Theric said quietly. "She's what stayed behind." Project Vesper was buried beneath 16 layers of Terran black archives, sealed during Earth's final expansion years, before the rift. Even Dominion intelligence had no record of it. But Ellen Rao remembered. She always remembered. The revelation came slowly. After a dozen failed mind scans and mounting psychological anomalies, Vorthari analysts requested direct explanation. Rao agreed. She spoke without hesitation, as if reading from a page already written. Project Vesper, she said, was Earth's final hope to outlast forgetting. The Vorthari watched her through layered quantum feeds. No encryption, no theatrics. Just a woman, dead and not dead, explaining how her species had tried to survive time not through war, but through memory. "It was a soul-binding experiment," she continued. "Quantum lattice entanglement. We didn't want immortality. We wanted resonance, continuity of presence across collapse. Technicians cross-referenced the term. Neural lattice warping. The theory had existed in Dominion circles, but only as fringe speculation. The idea that consciousness could imprint itself into space-time through repeated emotion, through shared experience, remembrance, was dismissed as poetic pseudoscience, and yet the Hecate drifted before them. Ellen Rao was its pilot, and its echo. She stood in the bridge now, hands behind her back, calm as history unraveling. "The experiment failed," Commander Theric said, reviewing ancient files from orbital archives. "Your systems destabilized. You fell into the Omega Rift. You died." Rao nodded slowly. "We failed to stay," she said, "but not to become." Silence stretched across the transmission channel. "The Ghost Drive," she said softly, "was our name for it. A misnomer. The ship wasn't meant to survive, not in one piece. We designed it to carry echoes, emotion anchored in motion, thoughts encoded into structural harmonics. Every engine burn, every breath on board, layered into the lattice. The Vorthari engineers listened, awed and horrified. "You turned your vessel into a mnemonic field," one whispered, "not to store data, but to store presence." Rao nodded again. "The ship was never meant to return, only to remain, a drift anchor in conceptual space." "And yet you did return," Vul said. Rao looked up. Her eyes shimmered, faint silver, brighter than before. "We didn't return," she corrected. "You reached us." "Impossible," said Theric. "We launched no signal." "But someone remembered," she said. That phrase again. "I came back because someone remembered me. A child on Earth. A forgotten name. A ship's final transmission played by a historian out of curiosity. It didn't matter how. The act of remembrance was the ignition." Rao stepped forward, touching the console. The lights on the Hecate pulsed in time with her breath. I am not the pilot of this ship, she said. I am the ship. I am the resonance that remains, the voice it gave to itself when memory reawakened. But what powers you? Thyrix asked. Meaning, she replied. And if we forget again? Vul asked. Rao smiled, faint and human. Then I sleep. She closed her eyes for a moment, as if remembering something beautiful and unbearably sad. Then she spoke the words that had been buried in the Hecate's core since the moment of the rift. If they forget us, we fade. But if they remember, we return. They sent fleets. The Vorthari High Command, rattled by the inexplicable, reverted to its oldest doctrine, projection of force. 6 capital-class warships, dozens of support cruisers, and a perimeter of autonomous interceptors moved to surround the Hecate. The orders were not to destroy, but to contain. She is a variable, said Grand Admiral Keseth, and variables become threats when left undefined. Vul watched silently from the Lance's forward deck. He hadn't issued the order. He hadn't protested it either. Rao's presence unnerved him, yes, but so did the silence in her wake. Silence that felt expectant. The Hecate didn't react as the ships approached. She drifted, slow, calm, unarmed, a ghost in steel. As the fleet closed in, something strange happened. Scanners failed to lock. Radar bent. Gravitic readings reversed. One cruiser passed directly through the Hecate's path, and nothing happened. No impact. No resistance. She passed through their formation like mist, unaffected. One officer aboard the Sunblade began shaking. He clutched his helmet, eyes wide, muttering fragments. His final audible words, recorded by his comms implant, "Where were you when Earth burned?" Similar reports echoed across the fleet. Officers heard whispers, inside sealed suits, phrases in dead Terran dialects. Some recognized the voices as their own. On the bridge of the Vexari Dawn, Admiral Tross gave the order. A warning shot, just one. A plasma lance, wide beam, non-lethal. Just to remind the anomaly who held the sky. The order was acknowledged. Weapons charged. But when the command fired, something twisted. All systems pulsed with inverted resonance. Every targeting core reversed. Weapon pylons shuddered, bent inward. The energy discharged not forward, but backward. The Vexari Dawn exploded. Not from enemy fire, from itself. The implosion tore across the fleet like a wave. Support ships ejected cores in panic. Some managed to retreat. Others disintegrated, silent, weaponless. No attack had come from the Hecate. She remained untouched, but not unnoticed. On the main screen of the Vorthari Lance, Ellen Rao reappeared. She was no longer flawless. Blood streaked her temple. Her uniform was torn at the sleeve. Her hands trembled faintly. "You brought war," she said quietly, "to a ghost." Her voice carried no rage, only sorrow. "I warned you," she said. "This ship isn't alive. It remembers. It doesn't fight. It reflects." One remaining cruiser tried to flee. Its engines fired once and stopped. The crew found themselves locked in place not by force, but by hallucination. They saw Earth, not as it was, but as it had been, as it had fallen. Cities burning, oceans rising, a cradle unraveling under the weight of its own history. One officer, weeping, whispered, "They died remembering us." In orbit, the Hecate pulsed once, faint light rippling across its hull, like a breath exhaled. No weapons deployed, just consequence. Rao spoke again, softer now. "This is not your battlefield." And she vanished. She was never meant to be a weapon. Not a warship, not a threat, not even a warning. The Hecate was built from sorrow, from the soft human desperation that refuses to let the dead remain silent. It was born in the final years of Earth's outward surge, when the stars seemed limitless and extinction felt like a possibility whispered just beyond the horizon. Now, as her shattered reflection passed through the wreckage of the Vorthari fleet, her purpose began to unfold. Not as an attack, as a ritual. Analysts finally decoded the anchor patterns. It wasn't the Hecate that moved on her own. It was the universe that called her. More specifically, Grief, pockets of sorrow, the emotional debris of forgotten places, of lost names, of tragedies too small to earn memorials. Planetary ruins, orphaned colonies, dead languages and drift-frozen ships where no one remembered who the crew once were. The Hecate responded not to coordinates. She responded to pain. She was drawn to what had been erased. Her arrival near the Vorthari border wasn't strategic. It was elegiac. It began to make sense. Earth, in its final century of exploration, had scattered what they called memory anchors across the stars. Artifacts of culture, seeds of resonance, small monoliths encoded with song, story, scent, feeling. They weren't machines. They weren't designed to signal. They were designed to be found. By anyone, even by the past. These anchors created weak but persistent quantum echoes, what Vorthari researchers now called grief frequencies. Not measurable by machine, but felt. Rao hadn't returned because someone called her. She returned because someone missed her. One Vorthari technician, after spending 3 hours near an unshielded anchor, described the feeling. It was like hearing your name spoken by someone who never learned it. Like your absence had gravity, like a lullaby hummed in a language the stars forgot. On the Hecate's bridge, Rao stood alone. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. She simply listened. This time, it wasn't the Vorthari who contacted her. It was a drifting outpost, long abandoned, its crew lost generations ago to a failed stasis experiment. A Terran colony that vanished before it was ever logged. A pocket of time. A wound. The ship arrived in orbit without propulsion. Its lights glowed faintly. Its airlock opened. No boarding parties descended. Instead, the Hecate broadcast a single song, an Earth hymn no longer in any archive, sung by Rao's voice, layered with hundreds of others. Voices of people no longer living, no longer remembered by any government, any fleet, any monument. For 3 hours, the ruins glowed, not with light, with presence, and then the outpost was gone, not destroyed, rested, witnessed. She's not reclaiming territory, Therick said. He sat in the dim debriefing room, far from any command deck. His voice was softer now, changed by something not quite fear and not quite reverence. She's closing wounds. Vul nodded. He said nothing. No one had seen Rao since the last transmission, but the Hecate kept appearing, never twice in the same place. Each time she hovered above places where humanity had been wiped clean. She made no demands. She sang, and where she sang, reality changed. Not violently, not loudly, but irreversibly. On a moon where Terran miners once suffocated in silence, wildflowers now bloomed in impossible air. A language thought extinct reappeared in the dreams of children from 3 separate species. One Vorthari priestess reported a vision where she held her own unborn daughter and whispered a Terran nursery rhyme she had never learned. Rao did not destroy, she mourned, and when enough remembered, she resurrected, not in flesh, but in weight, in meaning, in gravity, in the returning shape of things once loved. A pattern emerged. The Hecate's visits weren't random. She followed the echo of sorrow, yes, but only where someone still hoped. Her path braided the cosmos like a thread of memory pulling toward closure. And wherever she passed, humanity returned. Not as conquerors, but as echoes, rewritten into the galaxies they once touched. One day in the far edge of a broken system, a station technician, no rank, no special training, stood outside his module and looked up. 2 stars burned quietly overhead. A third shimmered faintly. The Hecate. No fleet accompanied her. No sound reached his comms, only a whisper in his mind. We're still here. He didn't understand why tears came, but he let them fall. They thought she had come to punish them. When the Hecate arrived over Vorthar Prime, every orbital array flared red. Alarms cascaded through the upper crust command rings. Fleets scrambled. Shields rose. Guns tracked the sky. But she did not fire. She hovered, silent, centered, unmoving. The planet beneath remembered her, not from reports, not from broadcasts, from something deeper, from silence. Vorthar Prime had once been a trinode of colonial extermination. During the Silence Wars, when humanity fractured and Earth ceased transmission, the Vorthari had seen opportunity. They struck 3 human colonies in unprovoked sweeps. Civilians, artists, scientists, no fleet, no defense, no survivors. It had been erased from official records, but the Hecate knew, not because someone told her, because someone still grieved. Rao reappeared in low orbit, on every screen, in every sensor ghost, across every neural-linked interface. She stood alone on the bridge, bleeding again, though she did not seem to notice. Her presence bent reality inward. The skies dimmed, not from weapons, but from memory. Light dulled, stars flickered, not gone, muted, as if ashamed. Planetary networks began to glitch, then weep, not electronically, emotionally. Command AI reported existential feedback loops. City archives began rewriting themselves autonomously. Names long purged returned. Full census logs, faces, blood types, family trees. Every human erased from Vorthari action was restored, into the public record, into history, into thought. One by one, the names scrolled endlessly, a chorus of the forgotten, and Rao said only one thing. This is not judgment, it's recollection. Vorthari generals screamed to cut the feed. Every attempt failed. Rao's voice could not be muted, not because it was loud, but because it had already been heard. The planetary moon dimmed next. On its surface, an ancient Vorthari monument cracked. Inside, Terran artifacts long buried to hide evidence surfaced from beneath the soil. Photos, letters, a child's drawing, a lullaby etched into a broken tablet. And then, the silence. Not peaceful, held. The kind of silence that wraps around the bones of an apology never spoken. In that stillness, Rao faded from the screens. The Hecate remained above, pulsing like a heartbeat the world tried to forget. Not demanding atonement, but making sure the forgetting was over. The Hecate vanished without a sound. One moment, she lingered above Vorthar Prime, her hull dimly lit like the memory of fire. The next, she was gone, without acceleration, without warp, without trace. No flare, no wake, just absence. The Vorthari scanned every frequency. Nothing. They pulled the skies apart looking for aftershocks, ghost signals, neutrino dust. The void gave them no reply. Rao had left behind no wreckage, no broadcast, except one thing. Buried deep in the quantum substrate of their defense net, threaded through the logic architecture like a breath someone had forgotten to exhale, a single line of code remained. Remember us as we were, or we will come again. It pulsed once, then stopped. No further messages followed. In the weeks that followed, rumors spread. Beyond the Vorthari border, far across drifting sectors, others began to see her. The same shape, the same ship, the same steady glow. No weapons, no message, just presence. A mining station above a dead world reported a Terran dreadnought passing silently through their long-range scans. It never altered course, never hailed. But afterward, one engineer, who had never spoken a word of old Earth, woke from a dream humming a lullaby she'd never heard. On the rim of a collapsing sun, an exploratory vessel encountered a reflection in the flare that didn't belong. A ship of the right shape, too old, too calm. Its wake bent light differently. It vanished after 32 seconds. Aboard the science vessel, Calyx Drift, an archivist opened a forgotten file. Inside, she found her own name paired with the face of a woman from Earth's final century. There was no blood relation, no shared ancestry, just recognition. None of the sightings could be confirmed. All of them were the same. The Hecate. She became legend, a myth whispered across networks, then in temples, then in songs. Some called her the morning ship, others the ghost pilot. A few just said she never fired a shot, she never sent demands. She only appeared where history forgot to mourn. Rao's face became a symbol not of power but of presence, not of vengeance but of unflinching remembrance. Her silence weighed heavier than fleets. Her appearance bent knees not through terror, but through truth. Some tried to chase her. All failed. because she was not running. She was remembering. And Earth, still silent, still hidden, not gone, just waiting, not for enemies, for echoes, because somewhere in the vastness, someone would remember a story, a name, a lullaby.